In this video, I will show you how to run a simple JavaScript program. I will also talk about the global object and data types as well. So let us start with the simple script. I will explain about this script in a bit. So to execute any JavaScript, you have to just paste it in the console here in Chrome, and as you can see, the program is executed. So console.log hello world, so it will print the text in here in the console, and then you can also use console.log or console.dir. Both are like similar functions to print the information to the console. So here we are printing the global this, so that is the window object, and there is another function here, function x, which we are calling using the syntax parenthesis. That's it. That's the program is executed. So this is the simple way to execute your JavaScript code from within developer tools console. Or you can also use the Node.js as well. So it is just your preference. Like Node.js also uses the V8 JavaScript engine. Chrome browser also uses the V8 engine. So you can use either of them. Mostly if you're working on the front end side of the application, then most probably you would like to work on the Chrome browser console. And if you are working on the back end of the application, then most probably you will be working on the Node.js environment. So as I said, there is a global object with the name global this, and that global object is different in different runtime or runtime environment. For example, if you are running the code in browser, then that global this refers to the window object. If you are in Node.js, that global this will refer to this object called as global. So there is one more example that I want to explain here. So here is another example. All we are doing is creating one variable a and putting 10 in that. There is one more function which is again changing the value of a, and then we are printing the value of a. So can you guess what will be the output here? It will be 10 or 20. Okay, I'm just going to execute it, and then let us see what the output is. So output is 20, even if a is initialized 10. What is happening is function x is getting executed, and that function x is modifying the value of a. So that's why it is printing 20. Now here is a very big problem. So what is happening is the function x is overwriting the value of a, and sometimes we don't want that to happen. We want to restrict the scope of the variables. So I will explain this thing when we come to the lexical scoping, but right now just remember that when we write the code like this, it is polluting the global context. So this variable a is attached to the window object. So if you do window.a, you can see it is printing 20. So what is happening is window object is getting polluted. So if another script is creating the same variable a, then what will happen is that that value or the variable will get overwritten. To avoid this problem, we can use the late const or the modules. So all these concepts were introduced in the ES6 version, that is ECMAScript 6 version, which was released in 2015. So that's why nowadays most of the people would prefer to use late and const instead of var. Another important thing that you need to remember is that you can use this use strict at the beginning of the script, which tells the JavaScript engine certain rules needs to be followed. For example, if you use strict, you can't use the variables without declaration. Here we have not declared the variable x, so this is not allowed if you use strict. Another thing that you can't do is you can't delete the variables like this when you are in the strict mode. And there are certain keywords that you can't use. For example, implements, interface, late, package, private, protected, public, static, yield, all these variables. All these keywords you can't use when you are in the strict mode, because they are reserved for future uses. Like whenever a new release of the JavaScript version will come, those keywords may be used in new releases. So that's why in strict mode, it will not allow you to use these keywords. It will throw the errors. The last thing that I want to cover in this video is data types and type conversion. So there are mainly two types in JavaScript: primitive types and non-primitive types. So main difference being in primitive types reside on the stack. I told you, right, there are two memory spaces in a JavaScript engine. One is heap and another is stack. So all the primitives are stored on the stack and they are copied by value. That means whenever we send the parameters, we call the function and we want to send that primitives to the function as a parameter, the value of those parameters will be copied. But that is not the case in case of the non-primitives. Non-primitives are like all the objects, for example, array, functions, date, map, set, etc. They are non-primitives, and these non-primitives reside on the heap side of the memory, and they are copied by the reference. So if you pass any object in the parameters, function parameters, the references to that object on the heap will be sent to that function. So this is the main difference between primitives and non-primitives. In primitives, we have got string, number, big int, boolean, undefined, null, symbol. All these are primitives. And non-primitives, these ones. Just one more thing about these primitives. Primitives are not objects, but they behave as an object. For example, if you create one string, say we are storing some value in that, and we can still access some methods. For example, we can convert it to the uppercase, lowercase, etc. And that is possible with the help of concept called as boxing. So what happens is that those primitives are converted to the string object temporarily, and because of that, it can reference the methods that are defined in this string prototype. So all the uppercase, lowercase, or whatever methods are there on the string object, that you can access for the primitives as well. So temporarily that is converted to the object, and then once that method call is completed, it is again converted to the primitives. So that is what happens. Then type conversion. So there are two ways in which we can define the language. First one is statically typed language and dynamically typed language. Now JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. What it means is that we don't need to define the type of the variables. But in C, Java, C#, all these languages, we have to define the data type. For example, we will have to define whether the variable is integer, float, double, etc. at the time of writing the code. But in JavaScript, you don't need to, or you can't define the type. That's why it is called as dynamically typed language. Another thing is strongly typed and weakly typed language. So JavaScript is weakly typed language. So what it means is that we can use the plus operator or the sum operator for string and numbers. So string is a different data type, number is a different data type, but still we can use the plus operator on that. That's why it is called as weakly typed language. But Python is a strongly typed language. Why it is strongly typed language? Because you can't add number with a string. It will throw the errors. So that's how you can define the JavaScript language. It is a dynamically typed language and weakly typed language. To find the type of any variable, you can use this keyword type of. So let us use this type of here and then see what happens. Type of, let us say A. And as you can see, it says number. Now let us say we are going to put string into that A, and now we'll see what is the type of A. It is saying that string. So as you can see, it is dynamically assigning the type to the variables. Initially A was a number, now it has become. So as I explained before, if you execute this particular code, let us say, it is printing hello, and it is using this two uppercase. So I told you that str will be a primitive, but still it is able to access some methods. So how it is possible? So that as I said before, as I explained, it is happening because of this concept called as boxing. So primitives will be temporarily converted to the object. So that particular variable will be converted into the object, string object, and then you can access the methods that are defined for the string prototype. Let's say string.prototype. So you can see all these methods are defined in this string prototype. What is happening is that this primitive is getting converted into the string object, and that object will inherit all these properties or the methods. And that's how you can use these methods, for example, to uppercase. That's it in this video. If you have more questions, let me know in the comments, and I will definitely try to help you.